We're going to start recruiting. There's a lot of big picture stuff to talk about that we'll get to later in the show regarding the Big Ten and scheduling and playoff models and all that sort of thing. But let's go to player acquisition, recruiting. June, a huge month in terms of official visits. I'm going to let you just ride with whatever you've got and whatever you feel is important before we start to grind down to details.
I was going to say, how many shows can you give me to talk about this? I'll try and be brief and leave some things for the other guys to jump in on, but June is going to be a big official visit month. Once you kind of accelerated the calendar and put in those summer visits, guys are taking advantage of it. It doesn't necessarily mean that everybody who takes June official visits are going to decide by July. There's more of a case of guys are going to take a couple in June and then are going to wait and kind of see what's happening. And if there's a coaching change or just some chaos occurs, they still have a couple in their pocket. But, look for Ohio State, especially the weekend of June 24th. That's going to be their big recruiting weekend. And that doesn't mean that they wouldn't have a bunch of guys in for the Michigan weekend or for the Notre Dame weekend. But I think you're going to see more of those guys in an unofficial capacity as they're really going to load up in June, with the 24th being the biggest weekend. But they certainly have guys scheduled. Brandon Innis for the 17th. They've got guys scheduled for the 10th. So, June is really kind of becoming that important official visit weekend. They're going to have the commits in, as many of them as they can have in. Because here's another thing, too. When you look at travel considerations, and while official visits, travel is covered as part of the visit, you still have guys playing high school football and so on and so forth. And even if you have a night game, anybody who's tried traveling here recently understands that just because you have a flight doesn't mean you have a flight. So the summer allows a lot more flexibility.
Yeah, and with the Big Ten doing all of the big noon kickoffs that Ohio State has, it makes it even more difficult for those guys to get in. I'm interested to watch what happens with the unofficial visits regarding the 2024 class and what Dylan Raiola does as he begins to help build the class. And he's doing it on social media and obviously in group texts and things like that. But I believe he's going to show up on the 24th. I know he's also planning on getting to the Notre Dame game and also the Michigan game. So he's going to be around trying to do as much as he can for that 2024 class, because right now he's got no classmates. So obviously he's not going to be the lone signee in 2024, and it'll be interesting to watch him build that class and who they target and who they're successful at getting and how quickly.
Yeah, it is an exciting time, I think, for Ryan Day and his assistants to get players on campus, to do those visits in person, to get their camp. They've expanded the camp. It seems like they're doing like 4 or 5 camp days this year as opposed to just 3 or 4 in years past. So they'll have a lot of prospects and parents and families coming and going all June long. And to me, again, it's only a good thing that, after COVID, they're able to get back onto college campuses. And it's been going on for about a year now since all the COVID moratorium and everything. So to me, this can only help Ohio State to market their program in person and get guys onto campus and to finish the deal. And I do agree with these guys. I think in terms of Raiola being the leader for 2024, you're going to see some other offensive players follow along, probably follow suit pretty quickly with commitments, I would think.
I want to jump in with 24 really quick, though, too. And honestly, there are only 2 takes on their board right now, in my opinion, and that was Raiola and then Jeremiah Smith, the 2024 receiver out of South Florida. That doesn't mean that they're not going to be takes coming up here pretty quickly. I think they want to see a lot of these guys camp, so that's going to be very important for all of that. But, I think that there's some guys that probably, if they were given the green light, would already be in that class with Raiola. But, you got to do your due diligence. I mean, we certainly have seen times where programs get out too far ahead of themselves and bring in guys, and, 2 years, and some schools have been even more than 2 years in football, and they don't develop the way that they're supposed to, and then you're left with a very difficult conversation that you have to have. So, I'm fine with them kind of moving a little slow in 24, but I think that, think that after we get through these June camps, I think you're going to see some conversations are going to happen internally, and I think some dominoes will fall quickly.
Kevin, a couple names here just to throw by you. One would be the running back Richard Young out of Florida, top 5 running back in the nation. Crystal ball projections have him going to Alabama, but is he in play?
Well, Ohio State doesn't have an official visit. He'd set up 4 and then was kind of going back and forth between Oregon and Ohio State. And then he came out a couple of days ago and said it wouldn't be Ohio State. And shortly before we went live with the show, he said it was going to be Oregon. But, you kind of got the sister kiss of, oh, but Ohio State is still a top school. I don't see Richard Young being part of this class. It happens. It's hashtag Cruton. It just happens sometimes. Ohio State has Mark Fletcher. I don't think that it's a case of Richard Young suddenly being scared of Mark Fletcher. I just think, opportunities change, and, you kind of have to roll with the punches there. Ohio State absolutely wants to take 2 backs in this class, but unfortunately, that other back will not be Richard Young, it appears. Now, stranger things have happened. Hashtag Cruton. But where I stand right now, I don't see him in the class.
Julian Toviano is a top-rated cornerback out of Texas. Yes, Arlington, Texas. He listed 8 schools. So Ohio State's still in the top 8, and a lot of Buckeye fans are going to get excited about a 5-star cornerback, of course. But is it realistic to believe that they're really in the serious running?
Get them on campus and you have a shot, but 8 schools for 5 visits doesn't necessarily mean you're getting a visit at this point. And, there's some serious bag being thrown around with NIL in the state of Texas between Texas and Texas A&M. And I don't even know if A&M's on his list. Let's just put it this way. A&M is on his list. I mean, he's got A&M, Texas, Georgia, LSU, Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, and Alabama. I mean, really not looking at any small fish there. They're not like, 3 or 4 SMUs on that list. So, I mean, he's got the big ends on there. I don't tend to see him in Ohio State's class, but, stranger things have happened. I mean, honestly, he's a 5-star kid that I'd heard very little of until he suddenly dropped Ohio State on his list. Then I had to learn about it.
Yeah, 6 foot, 190 pounds, and number 25 player in the country, according to the 247 composite from Arlington, Texas, Martin High School, right there in the Metroplex, the heart of the Metroplex, it would seem, right there with Dallas and Fort Worth. So, to me, like Kevin said, get this guy on campus and make your pitch. You've got an NFL defensive backs coach there now, and it's time to monetize that, for lack of a better term, and that's Tim Walton. Tim Walton obviously has come from the NFL, and I think that he could put guys in the NFL, and I think that's what Ohio State and Ryan Day are hoping for. So, I'm interested to see if they can get Julian Toviano, I presume that's how we're going to pronounce this, on campus, national top 25 prospect. And again, those are the kind of guys Ryan Day needs. He's shown he can recruit offense all day long and twice on Sunday. But now, to win a national championship, you better have some blue chippers over on the defensive side of the ball as well. They've made some inroads there with Jack Sawyer and Sonny Styles and JT Tuimoloau and CJ Hicks and Gabe Powers, 5 national top 50 players now lining up over on defense, and need more and more and more of those type players if you're going to contend for actually win a national championship.